So that's the fundamental of it. The other thing that's wrong about communism, especially as an ideology, is the way it works. Communism is really based on a claim that the people are virtuous, but it treats the people as if they were cockroaches. Okay? In both Russian and Chinese communism, as you'll see, the people were constantly bombarded with ideology. They were constantly bombarded with this campaign and that campaign and this bureaucratic restructuring and that bureaucratic restructuring, and all that stuff really represented, power shifts in the elite. Okay? And to a certain extent, genuine differences in care about the country's progress. But the point is that the people at all times were bombarded with ideological slogans and bureaucrats and everybody telling them what to think and everybody telling them what to do. Okay? You can't have that in a society. The society the society has to be free economically eventually, and it's always a struggle to get there. At the same time, the society has to be free ideologically, so that they can argue out the various philosophies of how to live and what kind of government to have and what kind of polity to have and what kind of foreign policy to have. There has to be a gradual freeing up of speech, and ideally from the get-go you have a capitalist society and you have free speech so people can grow up through the vicissitudes of that. Okay, and it takes about, on average, looking at history, it takes about 4 to 8 generations for any nation. It's usually 120, 200 years before any nation you want to look at in history matured in free speech and capitalism. And then after about 200 years, it starts to go bad again. I'm not sure why it's that long, but that seems to be the story, whether you're looking at how Rome got started or Greece got started or Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom got started or Egypt. They go through about 200-year cycles, okay, of struggle, and then they reach a peak, and then they come down again. And, maybe the nation continues on existing, but the cycles still occur. And I'm not really sure why it's that number of years, but that seems to be the number. So Marxism as an ideology, or Leninism in particular, and even Mao's application of it, which is really more Chinese, the problem with it is you cannot bombard the people with propaganda. Okay, you cannot bombard the people with ideology. All right, and that's, there was more to the story than that. In both, Russia and China, you had the leaders lying to the people. Like Mao lied to the people about the origin of the Korean War. It was really started by Stalin, who incited North Korea to invade South Korea. North Korea went all the way down to Seoul and captured Seoul. But Mao kept saying it was South Korea that invaded North Korea at the behest of the United States. Well, that's the opposite of what it was, and everybody knew that because the North Korean troops had actually done the invading. So there were like 100 million people who knew what really happened. So you can't lie to your people. But even if they didn't lie to their people, if they kept bombarding them with this ideology, I don't care what ideology it is, it happens to be communism here, but any ideology. If we Christians just went out and knock on doors and bombard you with the gospel, that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Our job is to make information available, and then you come of your own accord to hear it. If we go running out and imposing it on you like the Catholic Church did, the Catholic Church imposed their false idea of the gospel on Europe. They politicized Christianity. It was dead wrong. That's what Revelation 17 was warning about. It warned about the rise of the Church Fathers. Those are the most disgusting people that have ever lived, the Church Fathers. They were anti-Semitic to the core, and they're the ones who invented what became Catholicism, from 96 AD to about 180 is when they came into power, under commas. As far as, ideological power goes, they came into political power about 100 years later, and that's why Constantine converted. But the point I'm trying to make is that you cannot impose an ideology or a religion or any set of ideas on people. The minute you start doing that, you're wrong. I don't care if the ideas are right. Okay? Christianity in particular is supposed to be apolitical. Romans 13 tells us, honey, if you're a Christian, you better be the best citizen of your home country that ever existed. And that's also in 1 Timothy 2. It's all over the Old Testament. I mean, even Jeremiah, the whole book of Jeremiah, the whole book of Isaiah is about that. Whatever nation that you're in, you be a good citizen of that nation. Don't use your religion to be a bad citizen. That's the mistake that Mordecai made in the book of Esther. He made a big stink about being Jewish, and that's what basically triggered Haman to want to persecute the Jews. It was Mordecai's fault. All right? That's part of what the book of Esther is telling you. And Esther saved the day. All right? By being obedient. All right? You be obedient to your nation. If you're a believer, you don't wear your religion on your sleeve. So, even Christianity, which we know is right, is not supposed to be imposed. This is not a Christian nation in America. There's no such thing as a Christian nation. There's a nation with a large body of Christians in it, maybe, but the nation is its own. Acts 17:46, the Lord directly and indirectly controls nations. We do not politicize. That's Revelation 17, harlot. So, if Christianity isn't even allowed to politicize when it's the right idea, how much more Marxism? And that's why China had the problems it did. They were always trying to politicize Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. And there's actually a lot of interesting stuff in Mao Zedong's thought. But you can't impose it. It's got to be voluntarily chosen. And that's why communism doesn't work, is that it pretends that man is virtuous and then turns right around and treats man like a cockroach. And Marx reads history backwards. So that's the summation of it. Obviously more can be said, but I think I've said enough where you could do your own homework if you're interested and look at history yourself and see how much validity there is in the comments made here. Test it. Bye.